There was a study done that said the average human thinks between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. So there's a lot going on in this mind, right? There's a lot going on right now. Some of you aren't even here. You're mentally at the beach. Or you're thinking about other things. Like, I should have got more food. Who is this guy? I need more coffee. Whatever you're thinking. You're thinking a lot of different things right now. Here's the scarier thing about that statistic. 80% of our thoughts, left to our own accord, are negative. When a human being has the opportunity to go positive or negative, not saying anybody in here, don't take offense, but when a human being has the opportunity to go positive or negative, they typically go to the what? They go to the negative, right? And sometimes it's scary. Sometimes people challenge companies and people to do time and motion studies, and I'm a big fan of time and motion studies. We should all know where we spend our time. But I'm also a huge fan of thought and motion studies. To really think about what you think about. And really think about how you process things. And how are you taking things in, and how are you absorbing things as you're interacting with change. I do this to myself all the time. I audit myself, and it's scary when I think about what I think about. Like the other day, I was coming home from the airport, and I called my wife, and she didn't answer her phone. My first thought was what? She's dead, right? Something's happened. You ever do this? Like, oh my God, she's in an accident. Your mind goes to the complete negative, right? And she's got the kids with her, right? So then 3 minutes later, I call her back second time, still doesn't answer her phone. Now, here's where my mind goes. She's probably mad at me. She's mad at me because I've been on the road for the last 6 days. We got 2 boys at home running every which way. She's probably running them around. She's mad at me. Then I think to myself, well, she has no reason to be mad at me. That's dumb. I'm out here trying to provide for my family. Now I'm mad at her. Haven't even talked to her. I haven't even talked to her and I'm mad at her. Third time, call her back. No joke. Third time within 5 minutes, call her back. She answers the phone. I'm mad at her. I say this. Not right. I know. I say, where in the F have you been? Here's what she says. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She says, it's a nice day. I was out in the yard with the boys that happened to be home and the dogs. I left my phone on the kitchen counter. What in the F is your problem? Right? $72.56 later at the florist, we all made up. But that's where my mind went. And I'm known as a motivational guy, positive guy, optimistic guy. I mean, I'm known at that stuff. But when I do a thought in motion, I immediately went to, I could have thought, it's nice. She's probably outside. She's probably taking advantage of the day. She's probably playing with the dog. What was it? She was dead. Then she's mad at me and I'm mad at her. You ever happen? So 80% of our thoughts, left to our own accord, sometimes we go negative. So sometimes, going back to what you said, change automatically is caught with a negative tone. So how do we flip that? Here's the other statistic that's scary in that study. Think about this. 95% of the thoughts we have today are the same thoughts we had yesterday. Which means we are truly creatures of what? Habit. So when it comes to change, we've already talked about it, it's everywhere, and it starts with mindset. If you think about the mindset of change, here's where typically people start. They start with the present. And they do the SWOT analysis, and they do all the things that they do, and they talk about our strengths and our weaknesses, our opportunities, our threats. They kind of get a baseline of where we're at when it comes to change. Big or small, micro or macro change, that's what they do. But then here's what happens to a lot of organizations. Not saying anybody in here, again, don't take offense. I'm not here to make you mad. I'm just here to make you think. Here's what happens. Here's what they do mentally. They take the present, and when they're creating the future, they loop in the past. And the past is a really good negotiator. And it will convince us why we can't do things in the what? Future. And automatically, we start throwing out ideas, and immediately they're shut down with, well, we can't do that because. Or no, that's not. All of a sudden, we shoot down the ideas before we even give them an opportunity to breathe. Does this make sense? You probably know others outside this room that do that. But that's where our mind goes, because 80% is negative unconsciously, and the same thoughts we had today, the same thoughts we had yesterday, so automatically we, as human beings, are guarded when it comes to change. So here's the challenge. When you just think about today, and you can't really control anybody but yourself right now, so I just challenge you to get really selfish. And I don't mean selfish in a negative way. I just mean instead of looking in the window, a lot of you always look in the window. You're worried about your workforce. You're worried about your people. You're worried about change. You're worried about where it's going. Rarely do you just take a time and look in the mirror and say, what is it that I need to make sure I'm at my best? To be at my best. So today, just get really selfish. Because if you're not at your best, it's hard to be at your best. Would you agree? If I'm not at my best, it's hard for me to be good on stage. If I'm not at my best, it's hard for me to be a good dad. If I'm not at my best, it's hard for me to run the firm that I run. And so sometimes we have to make sure our tank is full so we can show up for our workforce and make sure we're showing up to set them up for the highest probability of success. So just for today, let's forget about the past. Not completely. I'm not a completely rip off the rearview mirror, but only bring the past forward if it positively impacts the what? The future. Everything else just leave. The wake never drives the boat. Right? I can look back and see the wake if I'm on a lake or on ocean. I can see the wake. It never drives the boat. I have to make sure I'm looking forward. Like this morning, I got up and Josh and I came up. We're hitting the airport. We got to go to D.C. for a meeting this afternoon, and we were running a little late. So we were coming from Jefferson City. So we got on 50, and I like to go a little fast. So we were speeding a little bit, kind of in the dark, and all of a sudden, we came up on these brakes, and when you hit brakes somewhere and a lot of cars brake in front of you, you think one of two things. You think there's an accident, or you think there's what? Yeah, police officer, somebody's up there on the side of the road, right? Sure enough, there's a police officer kind of over the hill when you got closer to Lone Jack. That's always a known place for police officers. There's a little police officer, and for whatever reason, we slowed down below the speed limit, right? I don't know why we do that, right? We speeded below the speed limit, and then as soon as he or she, whoever it was, outside my rearview mirror, I'm back up to whatever I'm doing. Ever do that? So here's another thing. I'm not committed to the speed limit. I'm compliant. If I was committed, I would drive the speed limit what? All the time. But I'm compliant. When I see an officer or something, I will slow down. As soon as the officer's out of my rearview mirror, I'm speeding back up. So that's another question you have to ask. When we're looking at change, are we truly committed, or are we just compliant? Are we truly committed to what it is we're trying to do, or are we just going to show up and do it when others might be over our shoulder looking? Does that make sense? So driving up here, I should probably spend the majority of my time looking in the windshield, not the rear view. Do you agree with that? If I spend my time looking in the rear view, I'm not going to see what's ahead of me. However, mentally, sometimes when we're trying to make change, our lens is what? In the rear view. And we're always making change from what's behind us versus looking in the windshield moving forward. Let's focus on this right here. Let's focus on how we impact the future to set ourselves, our teams, our departments, our organizations up for a higher probability of success, however you define that when it comes to change. Here's another thing about change. If you follow this blue line right here, every time you change, if you start the tip there, it feels like you're going what? Backwards. It feels like you're going backwards because you're changing a lot of things. And what happens is you begin to question that change. Why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. I might not like the old way, but at least I was comfortable with it, or at least it worked, or we thought it worked. And all of a sudden, questions, and that's where, going back to what you said, that's where resistance shows up. And that's where the mindset goes back to the past on what used to be. Because it might not be perfect, but at least it was comfortable. At least I knew it. Okay, but eventually, if you hit stride, and research shows when it comes to change inside an organization, research shows, you can look this up, all you need is 11% critical mass in your organization. If I can get 11% critical mass in my workforce that creates a tailwind behind this change, I am going to see the benefits. And I'm going to see all of a sudden the more efficiencies and more effectiveness with this change. Okay? But if I just stay on that path, eventually there's going to be a law of diminishing returns. So I always have to be constantly changing. So here's another thing. The best time to change is when things are going really well. When your organization is firing on all cylinders, that's actually the best time to change. Because you might feel like you're going backwards, but you're creating an entirely new lineage or line that you could not have created if you stayed on the same path. And then what happens is when you try to change at your best and it feels you're going backwards, that's the danger zone. Because again, your mind goes back to, why are we changing? So change is constant, but the best time to change is when you don't think you need to change. Because you need to be moving towards and you need to be thinking about and the strategies of the future and how do you get ahead of them proactively versus reactively. It's almost like this. I bet everybody in this room is really good at fighting fires these days. There's a lot of fires that show up, right? Boom, stomp that one out. Damn, stomp that one out. That one. And you're stomping out fires all day long. And sometimes you feel like all I do is fight fires. Well, this helps you become a fire preventer. Making sure the fires don't even what? Start. Now, don't take that in absolutes. I don't live in Disneyland, and I know the world's not perfect. I'm not talking about taking the pendulum from here to here. But what if we took your pendulum of firefighting from here to maybe here? That might make life a little easier as you go. So when it comes to change, thinking about and realizing that it's going to feel as if we're moving backwards. And that's where you are sometimes, right? Brian and I just had a conversation about a week and a half ago about some of the things that they're doing, and it feels like we're going backwards because we're still in that danger zone. You have to reach that critical mass to really become part of the DNA, to really see the benefit in the change. That's why change doesn't happen a lot, because it's easier just to go back to what's normal.